Do people in Indiana drive tractors to school? Does everyone here care about basketball? And do all Indiana people trespass during mushroom season? We'll answer those questions and more. So grab your Bibles and your chicken tenderloins. We're going to unbox the state of Indiana. Okay, great opening, right? Love that music. Welcome to Indiana, everyone. You probably really can't tell we're actually in Indiana because this looks like pretty much the entire Midwest, but I swear this was filmed about 20 minutes outside of Indianapolis. This must have been a corn year because, they rotate crops every year here. That's to save the soil, but more on that later. To get a complete understanding of the state of Indiana, we need to start at the higher level and then drill down into the Hoosier State's various smaller regions. Then we'll get into what the state's all about. The farms, the rednecks, the boring culture. It's actually not very exciting here at all. But we'll make this entertaining. Promise. I did live here for about 5 years of my life, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. We'll begin in the northwest part of the state, work our way around, and then come to the middle part, where most of the people live. This part of the state is called NWI, or Northwest Indiana. This area right here is Gary, and its surrounding suburbs. Now, Gary might just be the most destitute place in the entire Midwest. It's ghetto, really dangerous, and just not a happy place. Factories here closed ages ago, and the leftover crumbling downtown area is very Detroit-esque. The neighborhoods are run down and practically abandoned in many areas. The city's tearing down a bunch of these homes to try to clean the place up, but they can't keep up. To try to get people to move here, you can buy a home here for $1. But the catch is you have to live here for a long time. Anyways, Gary's glory days are long gone. It's about a half hour from South Chicago, so you could generalize this whole area here from Gary to Michigan City and even all the way up to South Bend and Elkhart as one big hood. Of course, South Bend is home to the prestigious University of Notre Dame, which forever had the most notable football program in the nation, but they're not very good anymore. However, outside of the charming walls of Notre Dame is the rest of South Bend, which is not prestigious or charming. South Bend is poor and dangerous, as is nearby Elkhart, a blue-collar community where they build RVs and other things. Folks work hard here. Now, an uplifting part of northern Indiana are Gary's south suburbs. Communities like Hammond and Munster are actually pretty decent places. It's clean and safe, and there's quite a few people who commute into Chicago every day. Folks have good jobs, it's affordable, and the schools are good. These are the Indiana kids that graduate and then go to Purdue. This is Lake Michigan. Indiana actually has quite a few nice beaches along the Lake Michigan shoreline. The most famous beach is likely Indiana Dunes, which has 15 miles of shoreline and some really big sand dunes where people can hike and such. Along the lake, there's some decent neighborhoods. Some are poorer and some are really fancy. It's pretty quiet up here. You can actually see downtown Chicago from Indiana's shoreline. Over here near the Ohio border is pretty much farms, rednecks, Amish people, and the city of Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne has a decent-sized state college. It's almost the perfect size, 250,000 people, which makes it family-friendly. It actually got named as the best place to raise a family once. Fort Wayne is one of the best-kept secrets in the Midwest. It's really affordable, pretty safe, and just about all the kids graduate high school. But who doesn't graduate high school are the Amish, and they're a big deal in some parts of Indiana. Their formal education typically ends after 8th grade, where they are then taught life skills at home. Growing up learning agriculture and craftsmanship, the Amish population is super efficient at farming, making furniture, and building homes. These are pretty much the best behaved kids in the entire state. Some Amish communities are very strict when it comes to modernization, and they don't have cell phones, cars, or even electricity. That's why you see them in horse and buggies. Other less strict Amish communities drive cars and have computers. Indiana has the largest Amish population as a percentage of its state's residents of any other state. The Amish aren't just big in Indiana. You can see on this map that they're also well established in Ohio and Pennsylvania. This is called Amish Alley. It's here where a lot of people buy their furniture.
Did you know there's 10 accidents a month involving cars and horse and buggies in America?
What? That's a lot, Mappy. I can imagine there's probably a lot of wrecks since there's a lot of windy roads in these parts. Let's see. Hey, you're right. A quick search shows that there's a lot of accidents in one part of Pennsylvania alone. So slow down for the Amish buggies, people. The whole rest of this part of the state is farms. If you live here, sorry I didn't mention your hometown. I'm sure your marching band's good. The Lafayette, West Lafayette area is a big deal in western Indiana. This is where Purdue University is located. They used to have good sports teams, but because Indiana's cold and not much fun, most of the best athletes now go to schools where it's warm, where the parties are much bigger, and where the girls are more fun to hang out with. Lafayette peeps sure do like to drink. It's been said there's more bars per capita here than anywhere else in the country. I lived here for about 3 years. I know. I took this picture from a downtown bar as the Purdue marching band performed during the Lafayette Christmas parade. Terre Haute has places to buy boots and stinks like manure. That's all there is to say about Terre Haute. The bottom part of the state is small towns, some German and Amish communities, some actual rolling hills near the Ohio River on the Kentucky state line, and, well, more farms. Many of the buildings are covered in limestone. This part of the state leads the nation in watermelon production. If you drove 30 minutes in any direction down here on a random summer weekend, you'd likely find a small town watermelon festival. They call this part of the state Kentuckiana, and it's just about as redneck as the name suggests. Sometimes kids in these parts take part in an annual Indiana tradition, Take Your Tractor to School Day, or Tractor Day, where kids drive their tractors to school. Sounds lame, but the redneck ladies love it. This usually happens early spring to coincide with Future Farmers of America Week. There are actual kids that don't farm here, though. This is Bloomington, Indiana, home to Indiana University, or IU as they call it. Bloomington kids party a lot, and there's bars everywhere here. One time, Princeton University called Indiana University the biggest party school in the nation. IU has a pretty good basketball team and turns out lots of doctors and dentists. This is Brown County. This is arguably the prettiest part of the state, Indiana's version of Yosemite National Park. There's hiking, shopping, dining, covered bridges, antiquing, and little inns. Indiana is lucky to have it. Outside of a bunch of teeny towns and such, the rest of the state is Indianapolis and its surrounding suburbs. Indianapolis is the center of the state and its capital, which is why they call it Indianapolis. Polis means city in Greek. Indianapolis is the 17th largest city in the country at nearly 900,000 people. It's almost as big as San Francisco and is larger than Denver and Seattle. Indianapolis can be generally broken up into a few various regions. The west side is strip malls and shopping. Indianapolis Speedway is on this side of town, which is a spectacle we'll talk about later. The south side is ghetto and home to industrial factories, which are part of the reason Indiana is the most polluted state of all, at least statistically. The further north you get from downtown, the safer and more pleasant it gets, until you get too far north. The communities of Zionsville, Fishers, Carmel, Noblesville, Whitestown, and Westfield are where Indiana's snobs live. These are the wealthy white families where parents shop at farmers markets and kids work part-time jobs to pay for their own cell phones. So responsible of them. Many families have heated driveways and drive SUVs. Indy, as it's called, has a reputation as being very boring, which is why it still carries the nickname Naptown. This is before they built a fancy new stadium downtown when Peyton Manning was here. Once the Colts started winning, things got more exciting here. It's not really fun, but they're trying hard here. I mean, the place hosted the Super Bowl in 2012. There's new apartments springing up all over the downtown area, but they're expensive. There might be too many new apartments now, since vacancy rates are climbing. Fountain Square and Broad Ripple are neighborhoods that are actually stimulating. But downtown proper is mostly built for the convention center crowd, a few chain restaurants and bars, and some shopping. Most of the other areas around Indianapolis aren't worth mentioning. They're a little rough around the edges. Especially Lawrence, which is so bad Live PD spent a whole season there, much of it seemingly in high-speed chases. Of course, Indiana has a lot of farms. It's endless miles of corn and soybean fields, with an occasional winter wheat field tossed in. It's flat here, and the thick, rich soil is due to the large ice sheets which brought sediments to the area from as far away as Canada. So Indiana soil was once Canadian soil. Too bad, Canada, we got your soil. Indiana's the 10th largest farming state in the nation, where there's nearly 100,000 farmers that are typically 57 years old. I was one myself. That's right, I moved from California out to a small community in western Indiana in 2010 and began an organic farm. I just needed to leave Southern California. I wish I had more pictures and videos of the experience, but for 5 springs, summers, and fall, I was on a farm that was about 10 acres big. I learned a lot, and I'm glad I did it, but being a city boy from California, I wasn't much welcomed into the community. Neighbors trespassed all the time. They took wood from my woods and fish from my pond. They littered on my property, too. They were jerks. But the people who were helpful were the Amish. They literally taught me how to farm organically. I'm eternally grateful to them for their help. Anyways, here's a short video I did find that shows me and my friends blowing some stuff up one day.
They didn't get too far.
If there's something Indiana folks love, it's morel mushrooms. They go crazy for them. These tasty guys pop up in random places in the woods each April. An Indiana person will risk a broken hip or a bullet in the back to find them. And they'll walk all over your property to get them too. That's because there's not a lot of woods left here. It's alternative farming. So they just pull over to the side of any road and they walk into the woods and they look for mushrooms. Doesn't matter if it's your property or not. I've seen near fights break out over poached mushrooms. It's not uncommon for people to pull guns on one another over them. But before mushroom season comes, you have to endure months of Indiana's terrible winters. They sure are long and cold. But it isn't the snow that breaks you, it's the long stretches of gray sky. You might go 3 weeks in a row of 20 degrees and no sun before you get a couple sunny days. I don't know how people do it for their entire lifetimes, those Indiana winters. Indiana's politics are very red. Going back to the 1830s, Indiana voted to elect a Democrat for president only twice, Obama in 2008 and Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964. A lot of the conservative culture comes from Indiana's upbringing. Back in the day, Indiana was settled by poor farmers who brought in values like religion, marriage, and child rearing. Indiana folks like small government and low taxes because they want the freedoms to do what they want, when they want, and how they want. No free meals for you, pal. You gotta work hard to get what you want in this world. Or just take it from the neighbors. Outside of agriculture, Indiana is a pharmaceutical and automobile production giant. In fact, you may not know, Indiana ranks 5th among all states in pharmaceutical products. The Hoosier State also has the second highest number of biopharmaceutical jobs. Plus, Indiana ranks 3rd in the U.S. for automobile production, and it's 2nd in the nation if you count all the RVs they make in the northeast part of the state. Culture-wise, there isn't much to talk about. Basketball's a big deal here, as evident from the awesome classic movie Hoosiers, which tells the story about a small school in a farm town which won the state basketball title in 1951. Basketball was invented in Massachusetts in 1891, but was born in Indiana. Back then, it was a couple peach buckets and a soccer ball. But by the early 1900s, the whole state had basketball fever. So you can't blame folks here for being passionate about Purdue or IU or the Pacers or their local high school teams. It's in their blood. Now, we mentioned the Indianapolis 500 earlier. This is the thing to do every Memorial Day weekend in the state. More than 300,000 people watch the race in person, which is kind of a hard number to wrap your head around. That's like the entire population of Pittsburgh jammed into a small area for a weekend. I've gone a few times. A lot of people are passed out before the race ends. Kids pee in trash cans. The cars go so fast that when you stand at the fence line, it's hard to tell if the car's even blue or black. No joke. Food-wise, it ain't pretty. It's a steak and corn and potatoes kind of state. Pork tenderloins are the state's go-to staple. It's a big fried pork sandwich that's actually pretty good. They also eat a lot of sugar cream pies. For fun, many people hike, some bonfire. The older crowd can be found at their local Walmart, their local ice cream place, or at a high school athletic event. Indiana doesn't like being called a flyover state, but it's just sort of average. Average wealth, average crime, average cost of living. Not a lot of people are coming, but not a lot of people are leaving. It's a lot of tailgating, a lot of going to church, a lot of high school athletics, and a lot of corn and beans, and sometimes wheat. We didn't even talk about how tornadoes hit the state every spring, or the fact that everyone here thinks Peyton Manning should be president, nor did we have time to talk about how in the heck do I get out of this stupid corn maze. But we have to go. There's a high school wrestling tournament about to start, and I need to get there before the free popcorn's gone. Folks think I'm crazy. What do I grow? Drive around here and you'll see corn popping up in rows. Just look around me. All you see is beans. But at least all summer this whole place will be so green. And we can shop Walmart together, go to church together. Nothing's gonna stop us now. We can watch the Colts together, pick mushrooms together. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now. No. Whoa. Hey guys, if you learned something new or you just like this video, make sure to like it. And if you really like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get all of our videos about what it's like to live in different places in America. Peace.